الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا غريب يا شهيد كربلاء فيا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the greatest sins that a person can commit is the sin of lying. We tend to underestimate the impact of lying. But if you look at the teachings of Islam and the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, we find some of those narrations describing lying as being the greatest sin that a person can commit. For instance, one hadith attributed to the Prophet ﷺ states, أعظم الخطايا اللسان الكذوب. The greatest of sins is a lying tongue. A person who has the habit of lying. This is أعظم الخطايا. It's the greatest of sins. Another hadith tells us that when we sin, we repel the angels. You know how far you can repel the angels when you commit the sin of lying? The hadith from the Prophet ﷺ states, إِذَا كَذِبَ الْعَبْدُ تَبَاعَدَ الْمَلَكُ عَنْهُ مِيلًا مِنْ نَتْنِ مَا جَاءَ بِهِ. When a person commits the sin of lying, the angel who's around you will be pushed away for 1 mile. The hadith says 1 mile. Now, in the past, they used to use this measurement, 1 mile. It's very similar to our mile. Maybe 1 mile at the time of the Prophet ﷺ is equivalent to like 1.1 miles now. You can actually push away angels for an entire mile simply by lying. That's how repelled they get. A stench, a foul odor emanates from me, is exuded by me when I commit the sin of lying. It's very important for us to know the seriousness of lying. A true believer, a true mu'min, never has the habit of lying. Once one of the companions of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, his name was Al-Hasan ibn Mahbub. He asked the Imam alayhi salam, can the mu'min be stingy sometimes? He said yes. Stinginess is not a good quality, but a mu'min can be stingy. Some people are generous, others are stingy. He asked the Imam alayhi salam, can a mu'min be jaban? Can a mu'min be a coward? Not having courage? The Imam said yes, it's possible. There can be some people, they have good faith. Their faith is complete, they do their wajibat, but they're just not courageous, they're just not brave. It's possible. Then Al-Hasan ibn Mahbub asked the Imam alayhi salam, can a mu'min lie and commit khiyana, deception? The Imam alayhi salam told him, no. المؤمن لا يكون كذوبا ولا خائنا. A mu'min can never be a liar. A mu'min may sometimes slip, forget, and lie. Occasionally it could happen, but he's not a liar. He does not have the habit of lying. He does not have the habit of engaging in deception. These are not qualities that are compatible with Iman. Then the Imam ﷺ comments. He says the two qualities that a mu'min can never have is to be a liar and to be deceptive. And this shows us the seriousness of lying. In another hadith attributed to Al-Imam Al-Qazwini alayhi salam, the Imam alayhi salam states, all the evil is locked in a box, figuratively speaking. And the key that unlocks this box is al-kadhib, it's lying. That's how destructive it can be. Lying causes a lot of harm. When we lie, we can ruin relationships, we can ruin lives. You break the trust, you can engage in deception. It causes so much psychological and sometimes even physical damage to individuals, to families, to entire communities. And hence the Imams of Ahlul Bayt cautioned us from lying. In one hadith, the Imam ﷺ states, don't engage in small lies because you get used to bigger lies. It becomes normalized for you. Make it a red line. As a mu'min, I shall never lie because I know how repulsive it is. Then the Imam ﷺ states, eventually when you become a liar, that will lead you to corruption, and corruption will lead you to the fire of hell. It's very important for us as believers, therefore, to protect ourselves from this grave sin. Once we do so, we will taste Iman. In one hadith, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam beautifully states, لا يجد عبد طعم الإيمان حتى يترك الكذب هزله وجده. Imam Ali alayhi salam states, you shall not taste Iman, the sweetness of faith, unless you keep away from lies. Whether it's serious lies or you're joking. Have you seen some people? They prank others. They tell them lies one after the other, and then, yeah, I was just kidding. That's a lie. You're not allowed to lie even if you're not being serious. Yes, if those present know you're acting right now and you're saying something to make a point, that's not a lie. But if you actually say a lie to someone who thinks you're saying to the truth, just simply telling them 10 minutes later, hey, I was joking, is not going to make it okay. The Imam ﷺ says, you shall not taste what Iman is unless you avoid all lies. But this is a constant struggle that we have. Many of us, it's very easy for us to lie, and we lie on a regular basis. According to some studies, Americans on average lie 4 times a day. I think that's pretty conservative. It's probably more than that. You have different studies, but one study says 4 times a day. Now, do you know how many times you're lied to on average? It depends on your position, your social position, how many people you deal with, but on average, you're lied to 10 to 200 times a day. This shows you how pervasive the sin of lying is. People lie pretty much about everything. And do you know who's the person whom people lie the most to? Your spouse? No. Your best friend? No. Who do you think we lie the most to? To ourselves. The average person, according to this study, lies to himself or herself on average 200 times a day. Because we want to keep a positive image of ourselves, so we keep lying. We lie to ourselves. We distort the reality to give ourselves a good image. And so every single day we're trying to deceive our nafs. Look at the irony. That's what the shaitan does. Before you deceive others, you start deceiving your own nafs. Lying is very, very pervasive. It's a part of the life of many people. According to one study, people, when it comes to their accomplishments, they exaggerate on their accomplishments by 50%. We try to exaggerate. We try to give the impression that we're very successful people. So it's very common for us to exaggerate. When it comes to adolescents and teenagers, according to one study, adolescents lie to their parents. Listen to this, our beloved brothers and sisters who are teenagers. On average, adolescents lie to their parents 50% of the time. Lying in itself is a grave sin. I've shared with you some hadiths. Now, when you lie to mom and dad, that's the worst type of lie, because they have the greatest haqq and right over you. So to lie to someone who has that much right over you makes the lying even more serious. And kids, you know, mom and dad usually know when you're lying. They have their built-in radar. They can sense it. So you're not going to get away much with your lies anyway. All you're going to do is accumulate those sins. Is it really worth it? So when you look at the studies, they show that people engage in a lot of lying. Another study showed that people who meet others for the first time, complete strangers, 20% of them would lie. Some people just enjoy making up lies, distort reality. And people are more likely to lie over text than they are face to face. When you see someone face to face, sometimes your facial expressions, your tone can expose your lie. So you might be a little bit reluctant to lie face to face. But over text, a text message, on WhatsApp, on social media, it's a lot easier to lie. So if you're active on social media, make sure that you're always upholding the truth. Do you really want the angels to be that far away from you? Do you really want to unlock the box to all evil by lying? Do you want to anger Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you want to lose your iman? Therefore, lying is a serious sin, my dear brothers and sisters, that most of us struggle with. But it requires a constant reminder throughout the day to keep us in check. Now, the question is, are there any exceptions to lying? Has Islam made any exceptions to lying? In our discussion tonight, I will discuss two exceptions. One is the exception for lying. The second is what is called TAWRIYAH. Many people these days are asking about TAWRIYAH. What exactly is TAWRIYAH? What are the conditions of TAWRIYAH? What are the guidelines? So let's have this discussion in order for us to navigate this very important topic and to know what our moral and Islamic guidelines are. Lying is haram because it's destructive, because of the negative consequences. However, there are times when lying becomes permissible or even wajib. Lying sometimes can become obligatory upon you. What are those cases? The first exception, the first case, is when your life is in danger, your property is being unjustly taken away from you, or the life of a fellow believer is in danger. If you say the truth, someone will innocently get killed. If you say the truth, someone will have their property taken away from them unjustly. In moments like that, it is okay to lie. We have many hadiths. In fact, we have hadiths that tell us in moments like that, you can even take an oath. You can even say wallah and say what you want to protect someone's life, to protect your life. Because here, the consequence of saying the truth is serious and severe, and it could end up in having someone being killed. So let's say a thief, a robber, a murderer comes and a fellow believer is hiding from that evil thief. And the thief tells you, is he hiding in the house? Say, no, he's not. But say it, I'm lying. Yeah, you have to lie in these moments because you're saving the life of someone. Of course you have to lie here. We have many hadiths on that. If the thief, if the murderer tells you, ihlif billah, take an oath in Allah. The Prophet says, take an oath in Allah. Because in Allah's eyes, you'll be considered truthful. You're protecting someone's life, you're protecting someone's honor, you're protecting someone's property. In these circumstances, lying is justified and acceptable. In fact, the hadith from the Imam ﷺ states, if you say the truth, and that statement will lead to the death of this person, or it leads to this person being oppressed, Allah will consider you a liar. Listen to this hadith from the Imam alayhi salam. The Imam in this very important hadith, he says, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَصْدُقُ عَلَىٰ أَخِيهِ فَيَنَالُهُ عَنَةٌ مِّن صِدْقِهِ فَيَكُونُ كَذَّابًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. This hadith is from Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. He says sometimes you say the truth, but someone will get in trouble unjustly. Because of that statement, you allow the oppressor to hurt someone. The Imam says, in the eyes of Allah, you will be considered a liar. And then the Imam alayhi salam states, وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَكْذِبُ عَلَىٰ أَخِيهِ يُرِيدُ بِهِ نَفْعَهِ فَيَكُونُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ صَادِقًا. But sometimes you will have to say a lie to protect someone from an oppressor. In the eyes of Allah, you will be seen as truthful. So this is the first exception. When your life is in danger, the life of an innocent person in danger, if you reveal information, if you reveal the truth, and that will get them in trouble, it will put them in harm's way, in those moments, your obligation as a believer, as a citizen who's concerned about the well-being of others, do not reveal the truth. That is the first exception. Do we have any other exceptions? Yes. The second exception that we have when it comes to the permissibility of lying is if you want to preserve a family from breaking up and you want to bring reconciliation to people, there are instances when you're allowed to lie. For instance, I'll give you a very common example. The classic example is you have two friends in the community and there are some misunderstandings between them. So the first one, he comes into a gathering that you're present in that gathering, and friend number one starts saying negative things about friend number two. A day later, friend number two comes and asks you, is that person bad-mouthing me? Is that person criticizing me? Is friend number one saying anything bad about me? Did he say anything in your house about me? What's your obligation in this situation? If you say, yes, I was there and he, talked negatively about you, if this creates fitna between them, Allah will hold you responsible for that fitna. Don't say the truth here. In this moment, you're allowed to lie. We have hadiths about that. Hadiths from the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam that tell us if you want to bring reconciliation and friend number one asks you, did friend number two talk about me? Tell him, no, he didn't. Say it in an effective way and avoid the fitna. Now you may be wondering, but say it, come on, lying is morally wrong. Even if you're trying to reconcile between two people, how is that justified? See, what's the harm of lying? It has a harm, right? It ruins lives, it breaks relationships, it causes harm. In this situation, bil'aks, it's the opposite scenario. You're trying to bring reconciliation between people. You're trying to put an end to the fitna. You're not being a bad messenger. I go to this person and tell him what the other person said about him. This is not a quality of a mu'min. A mu'min never goes and gives bad information and spreads rumors and bad information. Because that doesn't help anyone. It just creates animosity in society. So go to both of those friends and tell them, you're both friends, you're both mu'mineen. None of you said anything bad about each other. Maybe what you heard, it was meant differently. Make up excuses, yes. And reconcile between them. If you manage to reconcile between two believers, two friends, two spouses, a husband and a wife, you reconcile between them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you the reward greater than fasting and praying. That is the reward of salahu dhatil bayn. We have many narrations about the significance of bringing reconciliation to people. Some of us were the exact opposite. We fan the flames of fitna. Constantly telling others. Have you seen some people? They're impatient. Ba'da ma sallim, he hasn't said his salam yet. He said this about you and he said that about you. I was at that gathering, and they give you a report like they're working for the CIA or FBI. Like, who commissioned you? Who told you to go and spread information? This creates animosity. When you tell that person what the other person said, they're going to hate that person. If there are some minor misunderstandings, they're going to grow and become permanent, and you're responsible in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't want to get involved, khalas, just don't get involved, but don't tell them. But if you want the reward, bring reconciliation, even if it means you hide some of the truth. You don't have to reveal everything that happened in your presence. So the second exception, my dear brothers and sisters, is when you're bringing reconciliation between people to put an end to the fitna. Because in reality, when people bicker and fight and dispute, believe me, most of the disputes we have in our lives, they're petty issues. Petty issues. It's not worth it. By not telling them what happened, you're saving so many relationships. You're saving so many lives. Imagine if two people, they're standing at the door, a hurricane is coming and they want to get into a shelter. If they stay outside, the hurricane is going to kill them. And then you see them bickering and fighting. This person says, I don't like the way your clothes are. This person says a negative comment. In that situation, if one of them asks you, did that other person comment on my clothes? Tell him, no, Habibi, he didn't. Let's go inside the shelter. You're going to die out here. You're saving lives. You're saving relationships. So this is an exception, my dear brothers and sisters. In these moments, you can lie. In these moments, don't say the truth. Now, there are some guidelines here, some observations. Number one, you have to be creative and effective. So there are some people, they're a bit too blunt, for instance, or there are some people who don't do it in an appropriate way, such that your reputation now is at stake. Be creative in how you bring reconciliation. Because sometimes if that other person discovers that you lied to them, they're not going to trust you anymore. So you have to be wise in how you approach it. You have to think about it a little bit. Contemplate, come up with a strategy. That's one observation. The second observation, my dear brothers and sisters, if someone lied to you, but their intention was to reconcile you with someone, don't turn against them. Realize that they were doing their job, they were obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't be upset. That's their obligation. Because I knew a person who had a fight with somebody, a dispute, and someone tried to reconcile them, and he did. But then later, one of them found out, oh, he lied to me. That's why the reconciliation happened. And then he turned against him. Don't turn against him. He did what Allah wanted him to do. Understand that. Appreciate that. Okay, you didn't like it. You didn't like it. But that person did not do anything wrong. If that person's intention was to bring you together, you have to appreciate that the person made that effort. So this is also an important guideline, my dear brothers and sisters, to consider. The third guideline, we have to make a distinction between reconciliation and between advice. Don't conflate the two. If someone asks you for advice, you are not allowed to lie. A person from the community walks up to you. He tells you, I'm interested in marrying that person. And you're close to that person. You know about their qualities. Can you tell me a little bit about their qualities? I've heard X, Y, and Z. Is that true? Is it okay here to lie because I want to bring two people together? No, that's deception. You're not allowed to lie here because that person is taking advice from you. That person will base his decision to marry this person on what you say. Or someone in the community comes and tells you, he says, I have a business opportunity. I can partner with this person. Can you here lie and cover up the previous deception that businessman has done before? Yeah, because I want to bring the believers together so they work together. No, you're not allowed to do that. That's not reconciliation. That's deception. If someone comes to get your advice, you have to be honest. Can't beat around the bush and engage in lies because, wallah, I wanted to bring these people together. No. When a person comes to take advice from you, they're trusting you with advice. You have to give them honest advice. If you don't want to get involved, just be honest. Say, I'm sorry, I don't want to comment on this situation. Go ask somebody else. But don't lie. I know many of us in that situation, we lie. Say it, of course I have to have my friends back. What do you think? The girl came to ask about him. Of course I'm going to say he's good. Well, you want me to let my friend down? You committed a major sin. You lied. Because that girl is basing her decision on what you're saying. You deceived her. That's deception. That's not forgivable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to make a distinction between genuinely reconciling people who have a dispute and ending a fitna in society, in community, in a family, and between giving honest advice. Be a trustworthy community member whom people can trust you. So this is the second exception to lying, and that is bringing reconciliation. The third exception, very briefly, is warfare. If an enemy comes to attack you, and you have to lie, for instance, to distract your enemy, that's acceptable because that enemy has come to kill you. The person wants to spill your blood. So you can lie to the enemy to distract them. Or not necessarily directly lie, but distract them in any way. For instance, it has been mentioned in historical sources, even though scholars have different takes on this. Some have accepted it, some may not accept it. At the Battle of Khandaq, when Amr ibn Abdi Wud, he crossed over the trench and he came and he invited Muslims to battle, none of them accepted to confront him except Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, Imam Ali alayhi salam, physically, he was much smaller than that big giant. He was known to be a warrior. He was known to be confronted by 1,000 fighters and he would defeat them. He was a tough giant. Of course, Imam Ali has power from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the Imam also wants to do things naturally many times. So one report says, when he confronted Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Ali alayhi salam told him, basically, hey there, what's behind you? So he looked back, Imam Ali struck him. He distracted him. This is completely acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that. First of all, Imam Ali didn't lie. He didn't tell him something is happening behind you that didn't. The Imam just told him, hey, look behind you. So he thought something was happening behind him, and that's when Imam Ali alayhi salam struck him. That is fine, because this is war. He's coming to kill the Prophet. He's coming to kill Muslims. You have to defend yourself, even if it means you distract your enemy. So this is the third exception. If an enemy is about to attack you, the only way to defend yourself is by lying. Lying is justified here. These are the three exceptions. Now let's transition into TAWRIYAH. What is TAWRIYAH and how is it associated to lying? TAWRIYAH in Arabic comes from the root word that means to cover. Yuwari, wara. Yuwari means to cover. TAWRIYAH basically means the following. you technically do not lie. However, you give an impression to your listener, you mean one thing and they understand another thing. But technically you're not lying. What you are saying is true, but the listener understands something else from you. Now some people call this a white lie. No, tawriyah is not a white lie. A white lie is a lie. It's a trivial lie. It's a small lie that people consider a harmless lie. But it's still nonetheless a lie, and it's haram. Whenever you lie and it's not one of those three exceptions, it's haram. Let's say yesterday for lunch you had mlukhiyah, and your friend asks you, what did you eat yesterday? And without any reason, right? You tell him, I had qima. Okay? People call this a white lie. Who cares? No harm has been done. Whether you ate this food or that food, what difference does it make? No, that is a lie. A white lie is still a lie. It's still haram. You're not justified. A tawriyah is not a white lie. A tawriyah technically is what? Is a true statement, but it gives you a different impression, a different understanding. A number of scholars have said those three exceptions that we talked about, if you're saving your life or property, or you're bringing reconciliation, or in war, many scholars have said as ihtiyat wujubi, as an obligatory precaution, you are allowed to lie if you cannot do tawriyah. If you cannot state a true statement that the person can understand differently, if that's just not an option for you, then you can lie. But if tawriyah is an option for you, you have to seek tawriyah in those three exceptions that we mentioned. This is the statement of many scholars. I'll give you an example of how tawriyah works. For instance, let's say your brother is in the house. Somebody knocks at the door. An annoying person. And he tells you, is your brother here? Now your brother is in the house. Now as you're answering the phone, let's say, or you're standing behind the door, you tell this person and you point to the kitchen, and your niyyah is the kitchen. Your brother is not in the kitchen, he's in the living room. So you tell this person, no, he's not here. Now what did the person understand? He's not where? In the house. But what was your niyyah? He's not in the kitchen. Technically, did you lie? Technically, you didn't lie. What you said is a true statement. Your brother is not there. He's not in the kitchen. But you gave the impression to your listener that he's not in the house. This is tawriyah. We don't really have an English word for that. In legal studies, in law, possibly the closest word or expression that describes a tawriyah is lying by omission. Sometimes a person will omit details to foster a misconception, to skew the truth. Sometimes they call this in law lying by omission. You did not technically state a false statement, but you left out details such that the listener will understand something different. This is what a tawriyah is. Now the question is tawriyah permissible or not permissible? In Islamic law, is it okay for you to engage in tawriyah or not? What is the understanding of scholars? I will briefly summarize this discussion for you. Number one, what's the basis for the permissibility of tawriyah? Those scholars who've said it's allowed within the circumstances that I will share with you, what's their proof from Quran and Hadith? Scholars who state tawriyah is permissible, and the majority of scholars do say that it is permissible in certain situations, that is their justification. One from Quran, one from Hadith. As for the Holy Quran, they cite several verses from prophets who did tawriyah. For instance, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, during the time of Namrud in modern day Iraq and Mesopotamia, the pagans went to have a celebration. So he went inside the temple and he broke the biggest of the idols. And then he put the axe on the neck of the idol. He basically hung it on the idol. He broke all of them except the big idol. He kept the axe on him. So they came back. They looked at their idols destroyed. They said, who did this to our idols? They were told, it seems that Ibrahim did it. That young man Ibrahim. So they confronted him. Ibrahim, did you do that? He denied it. What did he say? قَالَ بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُم. He says, the big one, you see that big idol with the axe? He did it. فَاسْأَلُوهُمْ قَالَ بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ هَذَا فَاسْأَلُوهُمْ إِنْ كَانُوا يَنْطِقُونَ. Ask them if they speak. So some people have said, wait a minute, did Ibrahim lie? Ibrahim did not lie, but he did tawriyah. He told them, that big idol did it if they're able to speak. Well, obviously the idols cannot speak. So he did not say a lie. It's like if they were able to speak and defend themselves, then he did it. But it gave the indication that that's what he was saying. So many scholars have said this is an act of tawriyah. But it was permissible because he was trying to show the truth. And of course he's saving his life because they were about to kill him. So in that moment, it was justified for him. This is one example from the Quran. Another example from the Quran is what, my dear brothers and sisters, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. If you're familiar with the story, when they put the cup of the king in the belongings of his brother Binyamin, what did they announce to the brothers of Yusuf? فَأَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. What did the announcer say? أَيَّتُهَا الْعِيرُ إِنَّكُمْ لَسَارِقُونَ. Oh, you caravan, you stole. But did they steal the cup? They did not steal Suwa' al-Malik, the cup of the king. So would Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam tell anyone to lie? No. That was tawriyah. What was the tawriyah? You know what was the intention of Yusuf alayhi salam when he said that? إِنَّكُمْ لَسَارِقُونَ. You're thieves, you stole. In his heart, he meant you stole Yusuf from his father. That's your crime. That's the real theft. But that's an act of tawriyah because they were not aware of that. But that's the intention that he made. Technically, Prophet Yusuf didn't lie. He engaged in tawriyah, but for a wise purpose. So that's the second example from the Quran. The third example from the Quran goes back to Ibrahim again. When they told him, let's go to that ceremony, what did he say? فَنَظَرَ نَظْرَةً فِي النُّجُومِ. He looked at the stars, and then what did he say? فَقَالَ إِنِّي سَقِيمٌ. He said, I'm sick. But he wasn't sick. He said that to excuse himself from going to the idol worshipping ceremony. The Imam alayhi salam comments. He says, Ibrahim meant saqimun fi deenih. He meant, I am sick of what you're doing. I'm sick with this idol worshipping. That's what he meant. But this is an act of tawriyah. So this is the evidence some scholars have cited from Quran. What about hadith? We have a hadith in the book Mustatrafat al-Sara'ir by Ibn Idris al-Hilli. This is from Abdullah ibn Baqer from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. The Imam was asked, the very example that I shared with you. The Imam alayhi salam was asked the following. A person is in his house, somebody knocks at the door. So the lady who opens the door, she's asked, is he here? And she points to like a corner of the room where he's not. And she says, no, he's not. The Imam said, that's okay. This is not kadhib. It's not technically a lie. Some scholars have accepted this hadith as being authentic. Some scholars have not. They said we cannot verify the copy that Ibn Idris al-Hilli had to Abdullah ibn Baqer. He had a copy of his book, but we don't know if that's a reliable copy or not. So they've cast some doubt on the authenticity of this hadith, whereas other scholars have accepted it. Now this is the jurisprudential discussion. Now let's come to the application very quickly. When can you do tawriyah? When you can't, generally speaking. If it's a personal issue that doesn't affect anyone else and nobody's entitled to know it, you can do tawriyah. Let's say you went on a vacation to Florida and you don't want people to know for whatever reason. Now your flight connects in Chicago. It departs Toledo Airport, or I think you have a very small airport in Toledo. You have to come to Detroit, sorry. So you fly from Detroit, you go to Chicago, let's say that's the cheap ticket that you found, and then from Chicago you go to Florida. So people in the community ask you, where did you go? Can you say, I went to Chicago? Did you go to Chicago? Sure you did. You landed in Chicago. So is that a lie? Technically, it's not a lie. Are people entitled to know exactly where you went? No, it's none of their business. So you can tell people, I went to Chicago. Now make sure you don't post images later on social media and expose yourself. Then people will call you a liar. You have to be wise about it. But if you really don't want people to know for whatever reason, that's fine. People ask you, how much money do you have in your bank account? It's none of your business how much money do I have. So you can do tawriyah here. Somebody comes and they ask you for money and you really don't want to give them because you know they're up to no good. They're going to buy drugs with it. They're going to waste it. So you put your hand in your pocket. You said, Habibi, I don't have money. Meaning in my pocket right now. That's fine because that person is not entitled to get money from you when that person is up to no good. So when it comes to personal issues, many scholars have said you can do tawriyah because it's not people's business to know personal, private details about your life. So you can make true statements like that that give a different indication to the listener, and you're entitled to that. When are you not allowed to do tawriyah? You are not allowed to do tawriyah if you're dealing with people and it affects their decision making. Because doing so falls under the category of deception. You're doing business with someone and a person comes to you and he tells you, for instance, when did you buy this product? Is it new or is it old? So you tell this person, I bought it in June. Now when you say I bought it in June, which June do you mean? What's the indication? This June, a month ago. But you mean 3 Junes ago, 3 years ago in your heart. It's like, Sayyid, I didn't lie. Wallah, I got it in June. No, that's deception because that person is buying the object from you. He's basing a decision to buy from you. You have to be honest. You cannot engage in tawriyah here. You're getting to know a brother or sister for marriage and they ask you about your work, about your life to make a decision. You can't do tawriyah here. Like one guy, he was getting to know a girl and he told her, I'm a doctor. And she really wanted to marry a doctor. So she ended up, accepting to marry him, only to discover that what he meant, I plan on going to medical school one day. And he did some sort of tawriyah in his heart. That's not acceptable. That is deception. Because that girl is basing her decision to marry you on this fact. You're not allowed to conceal it over here. So this is the discussion, my dear brothers and sisters, on lying. When is it permissible? When is it not? And on what? And on tawriyah. But generally, the mu'min is one who's honest, who's reliable, and who's trustworthy in all moments. Even if sometimes it's against your own interest. Never lie. Unless it's one of those exceptions. Your life is in danger. Some oppressor is about to kill you. But come on, how often does that happen? It's not really applicable to most of us throughout our lives. A mu'min is one who's honest. And you see the finest example of honesty in Karbala with Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Take your hearts now to the night of Ashura in the land of Karbala. In that moment, all you need, my dear brothers and sisters, is more supporters. Because you know that they're after you to kill you. Imam Hussein does something probably unprecedented in history. He gathers his companions, he tells them, look, they want to kill me. Anyone who stays with me tomorrow, he'll die. So I will put out the candle. I'll turn off the candle. So you're not embarrassed to leave. Leave if you want. Can you show me a leader who's that honest in the history of humankind? He's in desperate need of help, but he's honest with them. He didn't sugarcoat it. No, stay with me, inshallah, we'll win tomorrow the battle. No, the Imam says, you're going to get killed. I'm being very honest with you. That's the honesty of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. As followers of Imam Hussein, we have to uphold that honesty. And we need to be known as the most honest people in the world. On that night, one of those who walks up to Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam was young Al-Qasim. Young Qasim, he walks up to his uncle, he tells him, Aba Abdullah, You told your companions that tomorrow they shall be killed. Will I also be one of those who will be killed? Imam Hussein wanted to test him. He's a young boy, he's about 12, 13. The Imam ﷺ told him, كَيْفَ تَرَى الْمَوْتِ? How do you find death? Listen to the response of young Qasim. He tells him, يَا عَيَّامْ في نصرتك أحلى من الشهاد. He tells him, my dear uncle, if I die supporting you, defending you, then death is sweeter than honey. Allahu Akbar. Look at the logic of this young boy. Yes, on the day of Ashura, Al-Qasim sees one by one the companions of Imam Hussein are massacred. Then the time came for Bani Hashim. They now were going to the battle to defend their Imam. Then he sees Ali al-Akbar fall to his martyrdom. Al-Qasim loses patience. It's my turn now. He goes up to Imam Hussein. He tells him, my dear uncle, please give me permission. It's now time for me to go to the battlefield to defend you, to seek shahada in the way of Allah. And Imam al-Hussein looks at the face of Qasim. He looked like Imam al-Hassan. He told him, Habibi, you remind me of your brother, of my brother Hassan. You are the amana of my brother. How can I let go of you? I cannot. The report says he hugs Al-Qasim. They both begin to cry until they both fell unconscious. How painful was that on the heart of Imam Hussein for him to fall unconscious? This is the only time Imam Hussein fell unconscious in Karbala. How can he let him go? This is the amana, the trust of his brother Hassan. But he keeps begging and begging. Imam Hussein tells him, what about your mother? Is she okay with this? He tells him, my dear uncle, my mother is the one who sent me to you. My mother is the one who put the armor on me. I have the permission of my mother. One report indicates that when Imam Hussein refused, Al-Qasim became very depressed. You remember before his father Al-Hassan died, he told him, my dear Qasim, if one day you're depressed and you find no way out, I have a letter for you. Read the letter. He would wear the letter in an armband on his arm. He opens the letter. He sees his father addressing Imam Hussein. He rushes to Imam Hussein. He gives him the letter. Imam Hussein, when he looks at the handwriting of Al-Hassan, he breaks into tears. The letter says, my beloved brother Hussein, if one day Al-Qasim comes to you seeking permission to die, please I ask you to give him permission. At that moment, Imam Hussein gives in. He farewells Al-Qasim. Oh believers, Al-Qasim goes out to the battlefield with so much courage. He fights the enemies, but they surround him from every direction. Remember the valor of Al-Qasim and the bravery of Al-Qasim. إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن صبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن. If you do not know who I am, I will introduce myself. I am Al-Qasim, the son of Al-Hassan. If you don't know me, that's who I am. I'm the grandson of Rasulullah. I'm going to defend my uncle Hussein. Oh believers, he fights with so much bravery. But then they surround him from every direction. Unfortunately, his left sandal on his right foot, the strap of the sandal broke. So he knelt down to fix the strap of his sandal. The enemies took advantage of that moment and they struck him. Oh believers, they cut him into pieces. Allahu Akbar. He calls on his uncle, Assalamu alayka ya Amma. This is my final salam to you. Imam Hussein rushes to the scene. He arrives at the body of Al-Qasim and he was breathing his final moments. Imam Hussein puts his chest on the chest of Al-Qasim. The Imam alayhi salam tells him, Al-Qasim, it's so difficult for me that you call on me, but I couldn't answer you. or if I answer you, I couldn't help you. May Allah curse those who killed you. On the day of judgment, they have to face your grandfather and your father on the day of judgment. And then the narrator says, I saw Hussein. He carried the body of Al-Qasim, and his feet were dragging in the desert sand. Imagine the pain on Imam Hussein's heart. You know what he did? He takes Al-Qasim to the tents and he puts him next to Ali al-Akbar. He looks to the right, he sees the body of Ali. He looks to the left, he sees the body of Al-Qasim. Allahu Akbar. One narration says Ramla, the mother of Qasim, she wanted to grieve, but she was embarrassed from Imam Hussein. So when Imam Hussein alayhi salam left, she came and she collapsed on the body of Qasim. Imagine every mother's wish is to see her son grow up, get married, have a family. Imagine Ramla on the body of Qasim. Imagine how she wished, I wish, oh Qasim, you would have grown up and I would have seen your wedding and marriage. But no, oh Qasim, your wedding is this blood that they shed from you. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. My dear brothers and sisters, a sister has recently passed away.